Part 13, Chapter 25 and 26. Chapter 25, The Nature of Humanity. No single word described the view better than this. Magical. The outside world was covered in enchantment, far beyond anything he had imagined or seen in his life so far. Jiyan found it all impossible. The fact that he hadn't been able to close his mouth in awe for quite some time spoke volumes about the spell the night had cast. Because they had set off immediately, the day had already drawn to a close. Due to the exhaustion he occasionally noticed, they must have been on the move for hours. Distracted by the sensory overload and the darkness, Jiyan gradually lost his sense of direction and time. Just when he thought he had seen everything, he was proven wrong. In the distance, bluish patches of light glimmered. It couldn't be a city, but why was there light in such a place? Electricity in the wilderness was strange. The dim glow of his suit filled his immediate surroundings with a hint of brightness. Even though they were highly unlikely to encounter a Slivon, it had become pure habit to keep the suits on. By now, the suit conveyed something comforting and safe. His comrades felt the same, preferring the combat gear to casual clothing. Slivon even brought along the trident, his constant companion, and fastened it to his back with an elastic strap. Jiyan heard something crack, which made him prick up his ears. Something alive was nearby. As he crouched down, he caught a movement out of the corner of his eye. He grabbed blindly. Something soft brushed against him. It darted away. Once more, his hand shot toward the source of the sound. This time, he caught it. Upon closer inspection, he realized he was holding a fluffy animal. A rabbit? Jiyan straightened up and presented it to Slivon and Wenjana, who had approached cautiously. Why is it so small? Jiyan clearly identified it as a field hare. It hopped around on his palm as if it didn't know where the exit was. From this height, a fall would kill it. Good thing it didn't try. Good question, Slivon threw in. Sometimes, on the way to the Slivons, I've noticed that the outside world is like a twisted reality. Watching the rabbit lift its paws and bring them to its mouth to clean itself caused all the walls around Jiyan to crumble. You're damn adorable. Adorable? Slivon echoed, staring at him in disbelief. And coming from our Jiyan? Just look at him. Here. Jiyan brought the rabbit to his right cheek, cuddling it close. Despite the mask, its fur felt pleasant. On bare skin, it even tickled him when the fur brushed against it lightly. It felt as if someone were painting over the spot with a brush. Fluffy, warm, and gentle. Is that your weak spot? Slivon laughed. I had no idea you were so into rabbits. How could anyone not like such enchanting creatures? Just really look at him. Cute, right? Okay, who kidnapped Jiyan? This one here is definitely a convincing copy. After cuddling the rabbit a few more times, Jiyan finally set it free. Although the animal looked fully grown, it was far too small, not like the ones from books or his imagined world. Which of the two versions was real? One could have thought one of them was genetically modified. A mutation. Since he had no comparison, he had never pondered such things. What else lay hidden was beyond his imagination. The ball of fur hopped away and vanished into the undergrowth, probably on its way to its family, to where it belonged. The thought brought a smile to Kian's face, which faded when another thought struck him. To his brother. His chest tightened. He shook the thought away. Don't think about it. The entire forest shimmered greenish. A strange glow hovered around him, as if Kian might encounter fairies or other mythical beings at any moment for intruding into their home. Even the outlines of the trees looked different from what he was used to, much more flexible and soft. As if controlled by something else, Kian ran toward the trees. An indefinable urge pulled him deeper into the forest. He tilted his head back. Only now did he realize the trees weren't trees at all. In truth, enormous mushrooms stood before him. Incredible. He breathed. He ran his hand along the mushroom. A dusty sensation clung to his gloves. Like a child heading off on an adventure, the desire to climb overwhelmed him. Before he knew it, he was clinging to the organism. What is he doing now? Slivon called out, hopping anxiously in place as if expecting trouble any second. How are we supposed to get him down from there? Come on, Slivon! Wenjana urged him, giggling happily. She seemed to feel like she was in an amusement park. What do you think is up there? Let's find out. What, you're going too? You're supposed to be on my side, Wenjana. Are you betraying me? Betraying you? Never! But a little distraction probably does us good, right? Below him, Kian noticed Wenjana climbing up the same mushroom. Of all people, she who usually oriented herself so strongly toward their leader, he hadn't expected her to join in. Guys, come down from there. You'll hurt your... Let them have their fun, Kian heard Aaron say. No sternness in his voice. He was just letting it happen? We still have time. Okay. If you say so, then fine. All right then. I'll show you how to climb properly. The higher Kian climbed, the harder it became to move. Still, he wanted to reach the very top. The effort partially stole his breath. Should he have used the power of his boots to leap greater distances? The mushrooms weren't magnetic like Diar's. For that reason, he refrained, to avoid major accidents. After some time, he reached the top and held out his hands to Wenjana to pull her up the last bit. She accepted his help. Although she wasn't particularly tall, he underestimated her weight and almost tipped over with her. Putting in extra effort, he managed to haul the dangling Wenjana up before she fell. Man, you're unexpectedly heavy, he blurted out. What? Are you saying I'm fat? No, that's not what I meant. I just meant, well, you know, it wasn't an insult, just, I give up. What are you even talking about? I love this woman for her forgetfulness. It saves me every time. Nothing. I didn't say anything important. Come on, let's keep going. Only now did it truly sink in that he was sitting on a real mushroom. Beneath him, it wobbled. With every step, he lost his balance. The texture reminded him of a trampoline. That realization made him grin. How high could he jump naturally, without any tools? Looking around, he noticed Slivon sitting on another mushroom, waving at them peacefully, almost bored, as if he had been waiting for their arrival for years. "Show off," Kian muttered, rolling his eyes. "You don't have to impress Wenjana, kid." I'm not doing that at all. You're just jealous, aren't you? I'm simply a born climber." Slivon, who stood up effortlessly without losing his balance, began hopping up and down on the mushroom, shadowboxing as he went. Was that behavior meant as a challenge? Kian sighed. "Shall we?" he asked Wenjana, pointing at a lower mushroom. "Why are you just ignoring me like that? Hey!" Both took a running start. They jumped from mushroom to mushroom without pausing. For the first time, Kian heard Wenjana laugh heartily as the leap sent her high into the air, so close to the sky. Slivon, who followed close behind, threw them both off rhythm when he landed on their mushroom with full force. "Are you doing that on purpose?" Kian hissed in his direction. "I don't know what you mean." Was he imagining it, or did his comrade stick his tongue out at him? "That!" Wenjana squealed with laughter. Grinding his teeth, Kian stopped paying attention to either of them. Gradually, his legs weakened. His muscles begged for a break. He couldn't keep up the hopping much longer. On the next jump, Kian got tangled in something resembling roots. Could it be? A gust of wind came from somewhere, sending dandelion seeds drifting through the air. Like balloons, they floated weightlessly. Never had he seen such enormous dandelions. What was wrong with this forest? Rolling onto the ground, they returned to their leader, who hadn't moved from his spot at all. "Look!" Slivon pointed upward. Above them flew an oversized butterfly. The closer it passed, the more wind they felt. Their hoods fluttered, revealing their hair. "This is insane! Right, Aaron?" Slivon addressed him. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" He didn't seem impressed. Unlike the three of them, who could barely close their mouths, Aaron simply accepted the facts. Was he unimpressed because he already knew all this? "Explored enough?" Aaron asked instead. "Shall we move on?" "You decide," Slivon replied as the only one. "We obey, right, Kian?" Kian didn't like the undertone in his voice, so he punched his comrade in the side. The gesture made the younger one grin. In return, Slivon jabbed his elbow into the older one's side. The light blow didn't bother him. It carried hardly any force. Now they were even. If their leader noticed the scuffle, he gave no sign of it. Finding any emotion on his face was sometimes no easy task. Without a word, Aaron set off. Everyone quickened their pace. The closer they came to the bluish light, the clearer it became that it came from insects sitting on other mushrooms, a kind of firefly. Aside from their size, they're normal insects, right? Not aggressive. What does that mean? What conclusions could Kian draw from this? The outside world wasn't what he had imagined. Beyond his home, everything was alien, not like the dream world he knew. Was everything a lie? Once again, Kian shook his head. He mustn't doubt. No matter how much the world changed, people were out there. They would know more than they did. They would feed them information. This dizzying hunger for knowledge would soon end. "How come you know your way around so well anyway?" Kian asked Aaron, who continued to lead them in silence. Was it all right to make his skepticism so clear to his leader? "Isn't it obvious?" I see. You've been outside before, haven't you? Why don't you tell us what to expect? Am I the only one who doesn't know what—
No, I don't either, Slivon admitted.
Me neither, Wenjana confessed, raising her hand. At least, I don't remember. Some things, Aaron began. You have to experience yourself to fully understand. Kilan felt resistance in his throat. If Aaron knew the outside world and hadn't stayed in one of the cities, then nothing positive awaited them. In an instant, Kilan was yanked back into reality. Whatever he had unconsciously imagined, he wouldn't get it. No, there is hope. As a leader, Aaron surely isn't allowed to say anything. There must be a simple reason for his silence. Right? Kilan pulled down his mask as his breath caught. There it was, a city. Despite the day having dawned, it glowed with intense light, a blend of violet, turquoise, and blue. He couldn't explain it, but a chilling aura enveloped the city. Aura? What am I thinking? He blinked. It was nothing more than a force field. Can't we go in? Wenjana asked when they came to a stop below it. Something in her voice made Kilan swallow hard. She sounded exactly how he felt. Crushed. Looks like electricity. What do you think? The feeling in his throat returned. There was life in the city, yes. But how were they supposed to get inside if a single touch was deadly? How were they supposed to draw attention if they were shown other images and saw nothing but this? Hopeless? Did we come all this way for nothing? We can go in. Huh? Kilan blurted out when he heard the words from his leader's mouth. Are you crazy? I don't want to die. Without waiting, Aaron strolled toward the city. He raised his hand. Before anyone could react, he touched the force field and looked back at his team. Nothing happened? Slivon wondered. But why? Is it just meant to scare people off? Then what are we waiting for? Kilan shouted and ran ahead as the first. Passing through the force field, nothing happened to him. No pain, no pressure, nothing at all. People? Other people? Tears welled in his eyes when he saw a few individuals on the streets. When he felt his team follow him, he blinked them away quickly. He didn't want to share this emotional moment with them. They weren't alone in this world. It was exactly as he had thought. The nightmare was over. They would get support, far better than in the organization, where they blindly followed orders. Finally, goal reached. Here I can act more according to my own wishes than under that invisible, non-existent boss. Wow, everything's so civilized, Slivon said monotonously. Okay, where's the catch? Do you think they aren't humans? Wenjana pressed. Slivons, maybe? Kian's heart skipped a beat. That thought hadn't occurred to him. No. Slivon shook his head. I don't think the leader would have sent us here this cluelessly if your theory were true. But everything feels too idyllic. What do you think, leader? You've been way too quiet since the start of our trip. All eyes turned to Aaron. He didn't seem happy to be among other people, as if he had lost hope, even though salvation stood right in front of him. Kilan? Yes? Aaron turned to him. Go to a human and talk to them. But do it. That's not a request. Kiyan looked at his leader in confusion for a moment, then at his comrades. After that, he set off. A young mother holding her child's hand stood before him. That child had the privilege of growing up safe, with love, without any fear of losing itself. Excuse me? Her attention immediately turned to him. Yes? Where should Kiyan begin? Before he could think it through, his body acted. He didn't know how much his counterpart knew about the Slivons. Was it enough that she saw his clothing to understand? We need help. Help? Who is responsible for this city? He needs to support us in the fight against the Slivons with weapons and trained soldiers. Her gaze flicked him up and down. Something changed in her face, as if she had remembered something unpleasant. Immediately, she lifted her child into her arms. Why? Did she fear someone would take her child? We need to go. Wait. Please leave us alone, or I'll scream. Was Kiyan being too pushy? Perhaps she mistook his plea for help as flirting. Turning to Aaron, it seemed his leader still wasn't satisfied, so Kiyan targeted other people. As they continued on, his comrade's footsteps close behind, Kiyan spotted an elderly man. Before he could address him, their eyes met. Not you again, the man croaked. Can't you give it a rest? If you want a different life, you'll have to fight hard for it here. Nothing in this world is free. Excuse me? Kiyan frowned in confusion. Were they meant? Was the man hallucinating? Kiyan looked around. No one else was behind them. Again and again you have to come here. Get lost. Go where you belong. We want nothing to do with you. The man didn't engage in further conversation. He clasped his hands behind his back and walked on. Although no one was with him, he continued speaking, probably still cursing to himself. What was that about? Slivon wondered. Then, turning to Aaron. Could it be that we aren't the first to visit them? That man seemed to recognize our suits? Do you understand now? Aaron spoke in riddles once more. He nodded toward the direction in which they would leave the city. These people will not help us. Are they afraid of us? Wenjana asked. That's not the point. Then what is, Aaron? Kiyan spat, his words sharper than intended. He no longer understood the world. Was Wenjana right? Were they perhaps not humans at all? Once outside the city, they stopped. Aaron sighed deeply. If one wanted to interpret it that way, he regarded his team with a look of pity. That's the nature of humanity, he replied. As long as it's not their problem, they don't care. There's no motivation to act, as long as they themselves are fine. They know about the Slivons? Slivon pressed. Yes, every single one of them, no matter which city or country. It's no secret what's happening to us. Listen, the leader doesn't keep the fighters from exploring the outside world because he's afraid of losing them for good. He wanted to spare us this disappointment, to shield us from this sight, because he experienced it himself. He knew how pointless our endeavor is. Many, many years ago, he had to bitterly realize during his escape that there was nothing to expect from other cities. He, too, was turned away. Unlike us, he had nothing, alone, until he gained as yet as support. With their own strength, they built the organization step by step for people like us who need a refuge. Kian's head felt empty and chaotic at the same time. What did all of this mean for him now? Listening to Aaron's words, he understood so much, and yet so little. How could it be that the people outside abandoned the people of his homeland with a clear conscience? Kian fell into a black abyss, fell and fell. Was he swaying? Not knowing what to feel, a mix of emotions crashed over him. Was it anger, sadness, shock, or sheer disappointment? His hope had been deceptive. There never was any. If they wanted to reclaim their homeland, the people they loved, and exact their revenge, they would have to do it by their own strength. "Come here, all of you. Come on," Aaron urged, opening his arms. "You look like the world has crushed you." Their leader wrapped his arms around them. "It's okay. You're not alone. I'm here." The sensation of falling and the dizziness stopped abruptly. Here, in the warmth of the others, Kian floated, at least for a brief moment, in a feeling of safety. Chapter 26. Emotions. It was unusual. Kilan had been summoned to Liam's room. It could never be that he had done something stupid. Considering how much attention he paid to how he was perceived, it would surprise him if he were in trouble. Still, it had never been a good sign when the leader called someone to see him. Apparently, Liam wanted to speak with him one-on-one. Perhaps to point out a mistake no one else was supposed to notice, to spare him embarrassment. How exceedingly considerate of him. Kilan smirked as the thought crossed his mind. He lingered in front of the door for a while before knocking. Slowly, expecting the worst, he stepped inside when he heard Liam's voice. Although Kilan anticipated many things, the dark shadows beneath Liam's eyes caught him off guard. A dozen strands had slipped loose from the hair tie and fell into his face. The blonde stubble was clearly visible. His last shave must have been about a week ago. "Thank you for coming," Liam said. "No problem. What's up?" Compared to Kilan's own room, Liam's was far more personal. Shelves lined the walls, filled with thick books, all neatly sorted by size. On the large desk stood picture frames of people important to him. What Kilan never would have expected of his leader were the heart-shaped stickers along the edges of the frames. Light-colored artworks hung on the walls, meant to soothe the mind. Potted plants with tall leaves also found their place in the room. Liam sat on a swivel chair and offered Kilan a folding chair to sit on. One might think he had arranged it on short notice for his visitor. At least it was padded. "I'd like to accept your offer, Kilan." "Which one?" "That we talk." "So, you're not doing well?" Liam shook his head. Not at all. Did it have something to do with his little brother? Ever since they had encountered that CR team, their leader had been deteriorating with each passing day. You could practically watch his decline. The deep black hole wasn't far off anymore. "I actually didn't want to drag you into this," Liam began hesitantly. "But I need someone to talk to. I've finally come to terms with that." "It has to come out at some point, doesn't it? I'm listening. What's weighing on you?" Liam's hands clenched tightly in his lap, as if he needed something to hold on to, or else he would fall. "I didn't tell you the whole truth," his leader confessed. The moment the sentence fell, Keelan's mind started racing. Every conceivable situation flashed before his inner eye. Since when had he failed to recognize a lie? I kept one page of the diary because it's too important to simply burn. Kilan didn't speak, even though his heart began to race at the mention of the diary. He let Liam continue. You know, there are different kinds of Slivons, with different effects. Effects? What does he mean by that? Should I ask or stay quiet? No, he's more talkative than usual. I don't need to do anything. Liam turned in his chair and picked up a sheet of paper from the desk. He stared at it as if hypnotized. It's all written here. Do you want to read it? Kilan nodded with a slight delay, even though his thirst for knowledge urged him to act immediately. Liam shouldn't notice how badly he wanted to possess it. He reached out to take the page. It did indeed come from Caleb's diary. Entry number 24, the 19th of November, 2018. My research has shown that these beings possess various peculiarities that take effect both outside and inside a body. I divide them into 13 classes. These are: Class A, remembers its lifetime outside a body. Class B, causes a massive explosion as soon as its plasma shell is separated from the core. Class C, detects all other classes. Class D, amplifies dream worlds. Waking up without external interference is nearly impossible. Class E, survives an electric shock, leaves the body in the process. Class F, survives an electric shock, does not leave the body. Class G, almost completely transparent. Class H, possess more complex nervous structures and act more consciously than the others. Class I, no noticeable peculiarities at the current time. Class J, divides faster every 2 months. Class K, when the body is split, both parts continue to live independently. Class L, possesses 2 cores the size of ping-pong balls. Class N, emits a signal that only these beings can hear and react to. If both caller and called are of Class N, they merge into a single entity and grow larger. If they belong to different classes, they destroy themselves upon contact. He had never been aware that there were differences among the Slivons. He had never given it any thought. To him, they had all been the same. Classes A, B, C, E, and F in particular caught his attention. These were useful effects. Now you know why some fail the admission test, Liam explained. They don't possess the effect of staying bound to the body even when hit by electricity. Kilan nodded. Class F. Everyone in Sin Rank 2 possessed that Slivon. Still not understanding where Liam was ultimately headed, he remained silent. He probably wouldn't get to keep the page. Best to memorize the effects as well as his memory allowed. I don't possess that effect anymore. What? Kilan looked at him with a furrowed brow. Why? Lian. His leader fell silent, likely gathering his thoughts. My little sister experiments a lot. I think she's trying to find a way to make our Slivons more robust. I usually serve as her test subject. After a few weeks, it happened. Her experiment destroyed the Slivon. Kilan barely dared to say it aloud. Are you human? No, don't worry. Liam raised his hands soothingly. Lian reacted quickly, before anyone noticed anything. Luckily, the memory cells were fully absorbed, so I'm still myself. But that means you lost the effect because you're a different class? You have another? Yes. And you could die faster than any of us on some random mission? Exactly. But that? I know it's insane, but please don't tell anyone. I don't want to leave you. I want to keep working as a soldier. Of course, it might end sooner than I'd like, but I don't want to quit. Kilan fell silent. But keeping all this to myself weighs on me every day. I pretended everything was fine to Leanne so she wouldn't worry. No one knows except you. Not even your fiancé? Absolutely not. Liam shook his head frantically. She was never okay with me becoming a soldier. Do you know how scared Zayina was during the admission test? If she knew I'm weaker than everyone else, she'd lose it. No, I can only confide in you. Liam held out his hand. Kilan had no choice but to return the page to his leader. He didn't let on how much he wished he could keep it. Thank you for trusting me, Liam. It's good that you decided to let your emotions out instead of keeping them bottled. The door was flung open. Amir stood there. Behind him were Jade and Yumi, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe like an uninvolved bystander. That woman still possessed the kind of gaze that could kill everything within 10 meters. May we come in? Amir asked, though he was already halfway inside. We've got a new mission. Heard about it yet? Whenever Yumi willingly worked with them, it was bound to mean they had to get moving. Man, Jade pouted. I wanted to announce that. Did you forget already, Amir? She stepped closer, hands on her hips. Amir leaned in as well, as if they were about to kiss, forehead to forehead. I was just faster. Everyone knows that next to Liam, I'm the one with the highest rank. Since when did we discuss that? If anything, I'd rather choose Kilan or Yumi as deputy. Good thing you don't get to choose. You're far too weak for such an important position. I'm better than you. They pressed their foreheads harder against each other. Yumi grabbed both of them by the collars and glared. Get a grip and focus. Are you children? Sorry, both said, while Amir gazed dreamily at her, no matter how much venom Yumi directed at him. Jade brought her index fingers together and sulked quietly to herself. Good that that's settled. Thank you, Yumi. Liam slipped the page into his drawer and stood up. He looked each of them in the eye. Get yourselves... Well? Jade suddenly interrupted him. Aren't you feeling well? You look so worn out. You can't just say that to his face, Amir squeaked, forcing a pained smile as he pushed Jade behind him, like a big brother trying to keep his sister from doing something stupid. Why not? Because he's our leader, and you shouldn't interrogate him like that. That's disrespectful. Huh? What are you talking about? He's our friend. All of us are. And you worry about friends. I just want you all to be okay. Once again, they pressed their foreheads together, teeth bared with the effort. I'm only saying this for your sake, Jade, because we're friends. Better keep your mouth shut. We're all friends, Amir, you idiot, and I'll talk as much as I want, got it? Yumi merely hissed, and both of them calmed down. Sorry, they said again. Won't happen again, Amir added, blushing when Yumi gave him her attention. Liam cleared his throat. Very well. Prepare yourselves. We're heading out. Kilan was meant to stay deliberately in the background. As soon as his signal came, he was to intervene. According to reports, several CRs had been sighted in the area. From the rooftops, he had the best view over the city. From above, the people on the streets looked like small ants, their heads full of errands. At first, unnoticed, he happened to spot Jiyan inside one of the apartments. His gaze stuck to her as she sat hunched on the edge of her bed. The curtain was drawn aside, the window wide open to let in the night air, almost like an invitation. Still, he wanted to move on and ignore her. He widened his eyes, stopped. Was that an insignificant page to him? Without drawing attention, he slipped into the room. Jiyan didn't notice him. Was she too absorbed in reading? Slowly, she pulled a loose page from the book as if she had torn it out. Wasn't that one of the books she had borrowed from the organization recently? Again? She whispered. How many of these am I still going to find? He moved closer and read the lines. Entry number 3, February 3rd, 2018. I have decided I will bring these beings to us. I will guide them to Earth. At some point, his breath brushed against the back of her neck. At some point, she noticed. She flinched and spun around. What are you doing here? How did you... You still have another page of the diary with you? May I see it? Completely perplexed, she held his gaze. She kept the paper clutched tightly, as if to shield its contents from him. Gradually, her eyes darted toward her bookshelf. That's none of your business. So, yes. Get out. Do you realize how damn creepy you're acting right now? Even if it wasn't her intention, her sideways glance betrayed her. From between two books, he saw white paper glint. Was that supposed to be a good hiding place? She jumped up, but too late. He already held the page in his hands and unfolded it. She tried to snatch it back, but he dodged her every attempt with ease. Entry number 26, December 12th, 2018. I took the risk. I let the creature enter me. My condition remained unchanged. My wife and our children were someone else at first, but returned as their original selves. Note, we humans, too, can be divided into different ranks. 2 plus 2 equals 2. 1 plus 3 equals 2. 1 plus 1 equals 1. 3 plus 3 equals 3. 1 plus 2 equals 1. 2 plus 3 equals 3. According to current tests, the following emerges. 1 and 3 are dominant over 2. 2 is recessive. What did the numbers mean? Caleb must have had something important in mind, but what? Kilan couldn't ponder it further because she successfully tore the page from his hands, ripping part of it and tearing several letters apart. Are you insane? She snapped. That's outrageous behavior. The numbers were important, but he'd have to deal with that later. More important was remembering most of the content so he could analyze it piece by piece. Kilan studied her. Unlike Liam, she showed no outward changes, no neglect. And yet, you don't seem well. After you broke into my room, that's no wonder, is it? Should Kilan leave? He still hadn't gotten satisfactory answers from her. Besides, He was on a mission, abandoning his team. Later, he'd need a good excuse, something logical enough to avoid trouble. These diary pages drew him in like a magnet. No one was supposed to know. He wanted to learn more and more about Caleb's research, about the Slivons. They had to be the key to success. "Something wrong?" Kilan asked when he felt her gaze on him. "No, nothing." "You're lying." "What?" "You're lying, Jiyan. To yourself and to others. You always have, haven't you?" She glared at him, her hands clenching into fists, the gloves creaking. "Just a little more poking, and you'll have it." "You play the happy one." "What do you know?" she hissed. She swallowed, touched her forehead, and took a deep breath. "I'm starting to understand humans. How hard it is to see a familiar face when it's not the person you know. It's painfully disorienting." She was still holding herself together too much in his presence. Something crucial was missing. "You take a great interest in humans." Jiyan bit her lower lip. Her body trembled. She was definitely suppressing something. "You... Yes!" It burst out of her at last. The longer she spoke, the thinner her voice became. "Yes, and I don't even know why. Why do I feel drawn to humans? Who am I anymore? As a Slivon, I should be on the other side. But why does it hurt, after all these years, to have handed them over?" "Because your emotions are doing this to you. It's that simple." They looked at each other for a while. He didn't move a muscle. No matter how uncomfortable it became for her, he stared at her relentlessly. She, on the other hand, looked at him, away, and back again. Her mind was clearly racing. "It hurts," she murmured. "If only I'd never asked myself what if back then. I could have spared myself all that overthinking. Would I still be here, or would I be different if I'd never asked? I thought I could save them both with the seeds, even if I had to hand them over, even if I had to do this job." She took a step toward him, raised her hand to his cheek, then let it fall. "Why did I enjoy my time with them so much? Why do I miss them? That's never happened on a mission before. Why this one of all?" Kilan said nothing. "Even though I wanted my best friend back, that lunatic who probably loved humans even more than I did, I didn't want the human Kiyan to disappear. Even though he was human, I didn't want anything to happen to Kilan. I didn't want that. Damn it, I didn't want that." "Jiyan, they're dead because of me. The damn seeds couldn't save themselves like I speculated, because I'm not capable of creating such a means. The only thing left for me is to fulfill Kilan's last will. I had to give Kian meaning in life so he'd never give up and completely disappear from this world. He'll kill me soon. That's inevitable. I'll die by his hand because the desire for revenge will be too great. I can't tell Zaina that, but I will die. For sure. But that's the only thing I can do for Kilan." When her gaze fell on him, she stopped herself. She swallowed, composed herself, and grabbed her arm. "I'm sorry for burdening you with my breakdown. You probably don't even want to know all this. I must have reached my limit to spill this in front of you. I'm sorry. Please forget what I just said. The human Kilan dreams, and you can continue living as a Slivon, the way it's meant to be." Kilan raised his hand and placed it directly on Jiyan's head. It happened suddenly, Even to himself, he hadn't expected his own action. She blinked at him in confusion, but didn't shake his hand away. They waited and waited. Eventually, he let out a sigh. Do you want them both back? Are they that important to you? The longer his words took effect, the more her lower lip began to tremble. Tears formed in her eyes. Jiyan, what is true happiness anyway? What? She whispered. Is it when no being suffers? Tell me, what is that suffering tied to? It's emotions, isn't it? It's always been emotions. Thoughts like that occupy you? With talk like that, you almost sound like the human Kilan. She forced a smile that pushed the tears from her eyes. It didn't bother her that the salty liquid ran down her cheeks. Gradually, the smile faded. She stepped closer to him. Her eyes widened. She grew pale. Wait, does that mean... Are you... actually? Quickly, he pulled his hand back and turned away. Despite her asking him to wait, he hurried out of the room. On the rooftop, he once again spotted the little girl he had seen in front of the organization 3 days ago. Whenever he asked her name, she shut him down. The strange girl followed him. No parent seemed to miss her. By now, Kilan accepted the girl as his shadow. Should I give you a name then? He asked her directly. When he stopped, she stopped as well. No answer. All right then. From now on, your name is Ina. Deal?